an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm muted at the start. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United news as we talk crisis talks at Manchester United as Sir David Brailsford begins his talks with Erik ten Hag. What will them talks entail? What will it mean for Manchester United in the coming weeks? What will it mean in this January transfer window? What will it mean long term? Because as Palm just said in the chat there, Sir David Brailsford knows nothing about football. Well, what we know about him is that he is the architect of a positive management strategy style that is out there in the public demeanour. He invented it. Marginal gains. We'll talk about what that means for Manchester United and why it doesn't actually fit with the current playing squad. So if we're going to make marginal gains, you've got to have one thing. You've got to have strong mentality, and that squad hasn't got that. So we'll be talking about that. We're also talking about, a few people have asked me, said, can you talk about Gary Neville and his comments, which are a bit hypocritical about Varane and Lindelof, but he won't mention any British players to get rid of. Well, I don't know whether that's fair, but we'll certainly talk about it. Jose, get the badge in, new member of the club. Thank you very much for supporting the channel in 2024. Legend. Lots to come this year with the United Stand. Keep your eye out for live shows and Christmas shows and everything. We're looking forward to those. We go again. But we're going to start off talking about this crisis talks at Manchester United. No talks today. It's New Year's Day. But Sir David Brailsford is well ahead of schedule in relation to his homework to get things done. He is going to be speaking with Erik ten Hag in the coming days, maybe even as early as tomorrow. And those talks will entail a crisis. Manchester United are a football club in crisis. The bottom line is that Erik ten Hag has lost more games this season than in the season that Jose got sacked and Ollie got sacked. Like, i.e., Ollie lost less games and got the sack. Mourinho lost less games and got the sack. We are in January. Ollie and Mourinho got sacked in December, but he's not in a great position. And Manchester United have to acknowledge this, and Sir David Brailsford has to acknowledge this as well. Fjord, welcome to Members Club. Happy New Year to everyone if you didn't see the morning show. Happy New Year as well to Demar. He says, I thought my phone volume was broke at the start. It's my fault. My fault. Yeah, heavy night last night. Didn't do the background checks, and you should always do the background checks. Chris, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Get your badge in. Right, okay, look. Let's get into this show because I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of opinion on this. There's multiple strands, but I think there's three big strands to this: signings, position in the league, and the future of the football club. I think these three things are areas that Sir David Brailsford of INEOS is going to hold ten Hag to account for and ask him to explain. Do you think he'll get the sack? Early question coming in. No, I don't think he gets the sack until the summer, but I think that he will be held accountable for the mistakes that he has made. And accountability is really important when you want to make changes. Now, let me just break this down. Sir David Brailsford, for years, has been known as the architect of the marginal gains strategy. What is the marginal gains strategy? The marginal gains strategy is basically, if you are a winner and you have a strong mentality and you improve on everything you're already doing by 1%, you will see major gains. And they call it marginal gains because some people will be, it's a great, I purposely waited to do this today. I could have done it 2 weeks ago. I thought I'm going to wait till January the 1st because it's going to really resonate with so many people on January the 1st who are waking up and going, I'm going to the gym tomorrow. I'm not drinking in January. I'm not eating any crisps. I'm not eating any chocolate. That's not marginal gains. That's unrealistic gains. Very few people who start these ridiculous training plans in January are still doing them by the end of the month. Some do. Minority do, but the vast majority don't. What Sir David Brailsford would tell you to do is he would say, instead of getting yourself down the gym 4 days a week and setting unrealistic targets, instead of saying you're not going to drink alcohol for the rest of January, how often do you drink alcohol? And you say Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Right, stop drinking on Sunday night. First week, stop drinking on a Sunday night. Let's see where we are in a month. Do you feel better? Yeah, I do actually. I feel a lot better on a Monday morning. There you go. It's a marginal gain. You're making more gain. You know, on a Monday, you're making more gain. And that's basically how he looks at it. If you were looking at it from a, January change. So he's a marginal gain motivator. But the principles of it really do not work at Manchester United because for these marginal gains to work, you've already got to have a winning mentality. Because if if I'm Harry Kane and I'm scoring 30 goals a season, so David Brailsford would be like, let's see if we can get you to 33 next season. And you can do that by analysing your game, and maybe just instead of making that movement every game, you make this movement, a little bit. But you've got to have that winning mentality to do that. And I think this is where Manchester United struggle. So David Brailsford is the architect of that. He is the architect of that mindset. And it was very successful with cycling. Will it be successful in football? It's going to be very interesting. Erik ten Hag, and we're going to discuss that tonight. Erik ten Hag is in survival mode. What else can he say besides INEOS want to work with him? He can't come out and say I'm on borrowed time. Great show, says Akash. Well, look, I just want to give credit to the community here, because we coined this phrase that everyone uses now, and we used it for the Fulham game, and we called it survival football because that's what we were doing. And he went in this, it actually happened. It was born from the Brentford game. Somebody said to me, the worst thing that happened to United was that Brentford game where he brought McTominay on and he scored those 2 late goals. If we'd have lost that game, we'd be in a better position now. And I didn't really understand what they meant, but it was almost like that chaotic, no rhythm, throwing balls in the box and we won, just made him want to reward those players, and it knocked him into survival mode when really we needed to go into kick up the arse mode. And we've been in survival mode ever since. What is survival mode? It's basically what we've been doing for the last 3 months. It's, every game's a bloody who knows what. There's no strategy, there's no consistency, there's no plan. It's just changing every week. It needs to change. But look, how does that fit in with these showdown talks that are going to happen, and what do we expect to be in it? I think the first thing that has to be acknowledged in these talks is, and I was speaking to somebody about this about an hour ago, and I was saying, look, there is absolutely no way Erik ten Hag goes into this conversation in a strong position, and you do want to, but he doesn't. I would say that all his goodwill is gone. That first season was very good, back in the Champions League, and 2 cup finals, won a cup. It's gone. Out of Europe, some bad signings, so many games lost, embarrassing losses as well to teams like Crystal Palace and Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. We shouldn't be losing to these teams, and we have. So he's in a really bad position, and he's in a position of weakness. Now, this will piss Ten Hag off, because if he'd gone into this position 3rd in the league, still in Europe, he could sit down and go, look at what I've achieved in the first 2 years. I'm doing it with hands behind my back. This is what I need. This is what I need. This is what I need. Whereas in this situation, he's going to go into this meeting, cap in hand, saying, please keep me, because that's all he can do. He's not in a position of strength. New owners, he's got nothing in his back pocket. He's got no armor. He's got no weapons. He's literally on thin ice, hoping that they want to build a team around him, which they may well do. They may well see Ten Hag as the guy, but they'll certainly be able to use him. He's not in a strong position. And people say, well, what does that matter as a manager? Well, of course it matters. When you're being dictated to by seniors, you want to have something in your back pocket that you can go up yours. I've done this, that, and the other. And Ten Hag's in a really weak position. So I think what Sir David Brailsford will be saying to him is 3 big things, really. 1, let's have a look at your transfers and why has it gone wrong? Because we are in a massive financial issue here, and you've spent a lot of money on players that are not delivering. Anthony's not delivering, 80 million. Mount's not delivering, 55 million. Onana's not delivering, and you got rid of a goalkeeper to pay 50 million pounds on him. Those 3 straight away, they're going to home in on that and go, look, whatever you think you are as the manager of Man United, we can't afford 200 million pounds worth of flops like that. What's going on, and what are you going to do about it? I think he'll also be spoken to in relation to the position in the league. Why are we out of Europe, and why are we drifting? We're not getting closer to top 4, we're getting further away. Why is this happening? And don't talk about injuries, because Spurs have got injuries. They're a point behind Arsenal. Don't talk to me about injuries. Brighton have got injuries. They're still in Europe, and they could be above us tomorrow night. So we're Manchester United as well, and Man United have had injury crisis before. Why aren't players stepping up to the plate? What's going on? And then the third thing I think they'll be saying to him is, all right, let's just park those negatives for the moment about transfers and current position in the league. What is your plan? What is your plan for the future? Because I've watched you play against Nottingham Forest. I've watched you play against Aston Villa. And it's sporadic, Eric. Like, I don't see a vision. I don't see it. You know, I watch Nice. I'm heavily involved in Nice, and I see a plan. I don't see what you're trying to do. I see players that aren't good enough. I don't know what you're trying to do. So what is it you're trying to do, and why can't you do it? And I think that's the way that it's got to be. That is the way that it's got to be. Because some people say, well, surely they're just going to sack him. Who's going to sack him? We don't even have a CEO to sack him. Would you get Patrick Stewart to sack him? And I'm not talking about the bold one from Star Trek. I'm talking about this interim CEO that's taken over from Richard Arnold. Would you want him to be sacking Erik ten Hag and replacing him? No, you wouldn't. So we're not even in a position to sack him yet. But we are in a position to hold him account. Earlier video, I'd sell players as season is dead, to be honest. Only back it, however, if funds supplement the summer and not pocketed. Not easy target, says Ray. We're going to talk about that in a moment, because I think a lot of you don't agree with what Gary Neville said, so we'll talk about that in a minute. JJJ says 1% marginal gain and 3% marginal loss is United at the moment, says Jay. Or in other terms, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, which is exactly what Christian Eriksen said. But I think it's really, really important to acknowledge the enormity of the job, but there is a positive that these conversations are actually going to happen, and they're going to happen very, very soon. And I think that my observation is that in the next 2 weeks, Sir David Brailsford will be reporting back to Sir Jim Radcliffe and telling him whether this is the guy to build the club around. The next 2 weeks are absolutely pivotal for Erik ten Hag, Manchester United, because Man United can't snooze. They're already losing, so they can't snooze. They've got to move. And to some of you, moving will mean let's get some business done in the January transfer window. But I don't agree with that. I think that Erik ten Hag will not have had any conversations with Sir Jim Radcliffe or Sir David Brailsford. Certainly won't have had any chat with Blanc or anyone like that. Those conversations are about to happen in the next few days. And I think in the next couple of weeks, that is when we are going to see this decision made. And I said yes. I mean, look, I don't pay a lot of attention to people who are haters. I get sent stuff all the time, and you know, it just makes me laugh. Actually, I don't think haters realise that they have always been the fire that inspires me. So I should thank them, really. But I saw somebody yesterday a screenshot of, oh, Goldbridge has turned on Ten Hag, and Goldbridge is Ten Hag out now. What a surprise! And I was like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of thick people in the world, isn't there? I haven't turned on Erik ten Hag. I haven't said let's sack Erik ten Hag. I haven't said anything of the sort. What I've said is that I'm not opposed to sacking Ten Hag. He's not my bloody dad. I know we were out for New Year last night. If you've seen the picture, yes, that was me in the glasses. But I'm not opposed to sacking him because we're not in a very good position. But I just wouldn't do it until the summer. And then, in my mind, I'm not sacked Ten Hag now. Absolutely not, 100%. The great thing about saying I'd look at it in the summer is it's still only the 1st of January. You've got to go all the way through to May. How many games are there to be played? And by May, I'll know the results of all these 5-month games. And maybe he's turned it around. Or maybe it's got worse. And if it gets worse, he's got to go in the summer. But not for me now. So I'm not Ten Hag out. I'm just saying if they make a decision on him in the summer, then I'm not going to be opposed to it if we're in the same position that we are now. He's lost a lot of games. He's made some bad decisions. And he's about to go through exactly what I want, which is this crisis talk, showdown talks, whatever you want to call it. It's about to happen. And I think the most important thing you need to acknowledge as a fan, whether you're angry with Ten Hag and you want him gone, or you want him to wait till the summer, or you back him completely, it is consoling, in a sense, and comforting that these conversations are going to be uncomfortable. They're going to be very, very uncomfortable because INEOS do not have any time to waste. Doesn't mean they're going to be successful, but if they're going to be successful, they have no time to waste. They cannot come in and go, oh, let's just see what happens. You know, they already know that the strategy of the last 10 years is a failure. They cannot just retain crap players and overspend on the wrong players. They cannot not have a footballing infrastructure above the manager. So those things are going to change really quickly. But the most important fundamental point to that is there is no point in bringing in a director of football and a footballing CEO if the manager's not right. And there is no point in clearing out the players if the manager is not right. So this is going to happen. This is happening tomorrow and for the next 2 weeks. Manchester United, under Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS, are going to be analysing Ten Hag and his suitability to be the man to take Manchester United forward. And it's happening now and for the next fortnight. So if you're Ten Hag out, I'd be quite... I wouldn't say I'd be relaxed, but my mind would be a little bit more focused on the fact that this is happening now. And if I'm Sir David Brailsford and I sit down with you as Eric Ten Hag and you say to me, and I say to you, look, why are we where we are? What is your strategy to get us out of this? And what's your play style? What are your targets? And why have your transfer targets not worked? And why did you do it? Because I want to know everything. I want to know everything. Richard Arnold and John Murtagh will know why David De Gea was allowed to go for nothing and £50 million was spent on a replacement that's not as good. They will already know that. But as Sir David Brailsford, I don't give a fuck what John Murtagh, and he's not a sir. I don't care what John Murtagh and Richard Arnold know. I don't care what happened. Eric, tell me why our defence last season was giving each other high fives, fist pumps, motivated, playing like their lives depended on it. We all saw it. We all saw it, Eric. It was amazing to see last season, that back five units with Casemiro in front. You know, it was tighter than a duck's arse in water. They wouldn't let anything past. Tighter than a camel's arse in a sandstorm. Nothing was getting past them, and every block they were doing team huddles like Gerrard. You know, we don't let this slip, and they didn't let it slip. You broke that up. That was the best defence in the Premier League. 17 clean sheets. You broke that up, and not only did you break that up, you broke it up and spent £50 million to make it better. Why did you do that, and why has it gone so wrong? And don't tell me it's just about injury, because I've seen some of the goals we've conceded this season. We're conceding goals from crosses. We've conceded 9 goals from people cutting it back across our box this season. Have you not figured that out yet? Is that breaking news for you? We're out of Europe because your goalkeeper's not good enough. Like, why are these mistakes happening? And I think these are the conversations that it's not going to be a nice conversation. It's got to be. I would describe these crisis talks, showdown talks, whatever you want to talk about. I'd describe it as what it is. It's a job interview. It's a job interview. Joe Hart, we did Ten Hag in out yesterday as a poll. That's what we did. Alf, you're gone. Thank you very much. If you've got nothing decent to say, then don't do it. Darren Mullaney, thank you very much. So yeah, I think that I think it's a job interview for Ten Hag. I think that's the best way of describing it. It's a job interview where he's going to be scrutinised, quite rightly, on a multiple of things. And then I think they'll take that information away. He'll talk to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and it will be, I think this is the guy. I think he's been unlucky. I think he hasn't been helped. And I think if we put in Blanc and Mitchell working with him and with me, Sir Jim, I think we can make this work. Or it'll be, I don't know. Look, we've got till the end of the season. Let's see if it improves. He's made a few promises. Let's see where we are and we can reassess. But let's start looking at alternatives just in case. Or third option, it will be, Jim, he ain't the guy. He ain't the guy for this job. Let's get through to the end of the season, but let's get working right now on who we want to take the job in the summer. Very similar to what they did with Van Gaal and Mourinho. Let's start getting the next fucking manager lined up, because it's not going to be this guy. He's got to go in the summer. Let's start planning. Let's start doing it. And it'll be one of those 3 options. And they'll make that decision in the next few days. Having spoken to Ten Hag, it'll either be, yes, I think this is the guy we can work with. Let's get to work. I'm not sure, so let's start looking at alternatives, or definitely not. Let's get to the summer. Let's get a new manager in, the best we can get, and let's start building. And that's what's going to happen. And anybody who thinks that that's not going to happen is a fool. That's the whole point of Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying 25% and taking over the football side. He's not signed the contract saying, I'm going to keep Ten Hag. He's going to assess that, and the Glazers have given him that responsibility to do it. Transfers decisions have been awful, says Sean Turner. Tactical decisions at the weekend costing us the game, in my opinion. I honestly don't see any situation where Ten Hag is our manager next season, says Sean Turner. And if I'm INEOS, well, I'll ask you that. There's a poll for you. We'll do that. Great point by Sean. Thank you very much for the super chat. Matt G says, if I'm INEOS, I would go to Real Madrid and write a blank check for Ancelotti. I know he's just signed a new deal, but he's the only logical option. Well, yeah. look, I'm not going to dispute the fact that they might start looking at alternatives very, very soon for the summer. But where are you going to go? What are you going to get? Xabi Alonso, people start making like that. De Zerbi, I think they fail unless you are absolutely confident that you're going to remove a lot of the shit problems that have been there for every manager for the last 10 years. Let's just do this. Will Ten Hag be here next season? Let me just put that as a poll for you. There we go. So look, I wouldn't say I'm excited. I'm definitely intrigued about what we're about to see over the next coming days, and I think there's a lot of justified negativity. I was drained at the weekend after that Forest loss, really, really pissed off, and you know, drained to the point, and I don't know whether this resonates with you, but I mean, you could visibly see it on my match reaction. I was drained to the point of after the Forest loss that I was like, I just don't know anymore. I don't know what we do. I don't see any improvement. I don't see how we improve this situation. And then I was like, well, actually, I wanted the Glazers gone. I wanted a brand new owner, but we're not getting that. I suppose this is the next best thing, isn't it? And I'm like, at least there is a review. And these people, unless they're completely and utterly incompetent, surely they're going to look at the problems that we see and go, yeah, these things need to change. That's all I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that they see the substitution of McTominay for Mainu and go, what the fuck is going on? I'm hoping that they see the mistakes that have been made in the transfer market. I'm hoping that they see the complete and utter ineptness around recruitment and fitness. I'm hoping that they see all these things. I'm hoping that they see that we buy players who clearly have bad attitudes, that they're not winners. That you know, and I look, I absolutely will nail my flag to the mast on this one. If Sir David Brailsford doesn't realise that some of these players don't have the right mentality, I'll be stunned, because I know it and you know it. And this guy is about and go back to what I said at the start. This guy is about marginal gains. He's about elite winning mentalities, getting extra gains by doing extra things. And he's going to realise very, very quickly that he hasn't got winning mentalities. What marginal gains, I've said it already is, what it is. But basically, if James Guy is talking about Southgate, if James Guy is, you know, a midfielder for Manchester United, and I'm Sir David Brailsford, and he's Roy Keane, consistent, loves the club, gives everything every week. And I say to Roy Keane, you're brilliant, but I can get more out of you. I can get another 1% out of you. And another 1% out of Roy Keane's an even better Roy Keane. And Roy Keane says, how are you going to do that? And I say, right, let's sit down. What time do you go to bed at night? 11? Right. What time do you get up? 6. So you're getting 7 hours. Is it a good 7 hours? Most of the time, right. Okay, get yourself to bed at 10 o'clock. Let's get you 8 hours sleep instead of 7 hours sleep. It's a marginal gain. And that's what but Roy Keane's already a winner. Roy Keane's already the right player. The problem he's going to have with Exhibit A at Manchester United is, let's take a player. You think of a player at Man United that you think's not good enough, but plays in the first team regularly and probably isn't going to get sold. So David Brailsford speaks to that player and says, look, I'm looking at marginal gains. Very quickly, he's going to realise that marginal gains, this is a guy who doesn't even give 100%. This is a guy who doesn't even give 60%. We're not talking about marginal gain. I can't make marginal gains here because this guy is inconsistent. He's up and down. There can't be any marginal gains because he's never at 100% anyway. And that's the problem he's going to have. You need for this Sir David Brailsford strategy to work, he's got to get a group of people in the club who are elite mentality people and then get the marginal gains. If you haven't got elite mentality consistency, you're going to struggle. And look, Abdullah's naming players like Martial, other people are making him Rashford, Bruno, etc. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't think you need to individualise it, but, you know, I quite like the idea of marginal gain strategy, but you've got to get the right players in. It works brilliant for people like Mo Salah. It works brilliant for people like Saka. It works brilliant for people like Kevin De Bruyne. And you know, it probably works well for Declan Rice. I'm just saying, it doesn't mean you've got to be one of the best players in the world. You've got to be a player that gives it all every week. It probably worked really well for Luton. Luton give it all every week, don't they? Getting a little bit of extra out. As a style of play, I look back last season and we never played well. I get reminded of the game before the Carabao Cup final where Erik ten Hag said Newcastle played boring, but since he came in, United have been as well, says Jay. And no chances created, lads, due back won't improve it, says Travelbug TV. It's interesting, I want to talk about what Gary Neville said, and obviously I'm live on That's Footballing. We've got plenty of time, actually. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Welcome to the new members, by the way. You'll get your badge in next to your name on the chat. No chances created. Notorious SRP, thank you very much. Look, I think it's really important to say this. Manchester United this season, and this is something else. Look, they'll go this granular. They will go into this detail. And this is something that Sir David Brailsford will say to Ten Hag, I guarantee it. He's going to say, look, last season, I've already spoken about what you did with the defence, but last season, when you lost to Liverpool and Man City, and you got your arse smacked, it was because Casemiro got overrun because Eriksen's not physical enough. Why over the summer did you not fix that? Why did you not think putting someone next to Casemiro, who's more of a combative number 8, would make you better? And what you actually did is you went and bought an attacking midfielder. And what you've actually done this season is play with one holding midfielder and 2 attacking midfielders. And you know what really stuns me, Eric, is that you've clearly gone with 2 attacking midfielders and 1 holding midfielder. Everyone can see that. You've done it with McTominay, you've done it with Mount. Everybody can see what you've done. You leave 1 holding midfielder on their own and you have 2 attacking midfielders. It doesn't work. So why do you keep doing it? Well, it does work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You concede loads of goals and you've lost loads of games, but you've got 2 attacking midfielders and yet you create fuck all. We hardly score any goals, and they're the facts. Look at us. Compared to the other 19 clubs, we're down near the bottom for everything. So you're playing 2 attacking midfielders, but you don't create anything. Have you not figured this out? It's January. Like, what have you done with that midfield? And why is it any United fan's pet can see what you're doing, but you can't see it? I've watched United in recent weeks. You played Bruno and McTominay. Bruno wants to get forward. McTominay wants to get forward. Mainoo's on his own, getting overrun. But then those 2 lads who are going forward don't create anything. It's crazy. Why have you not just gone, this doesn't work? In fact, the one game where you did it was Liverpool away, and it worked. You had Amrabat and Mainoo, and it worked. And then you've gone back to having 2 attacking midfielders again. I don't get it. I don't get what you're trying to achieve. But those things need to be said. Erik ten Hag was run about Ronaldo. But it's true, isn't it? I watch Manchester United, you watch Manchester United. Everybody has a different perception of what they're watching. But it's been very clear to me all season that we have been, trying to get 2 attacking midfielders forward, probably to take part in the press. And we have pressed reasonably well. The stats on pressing are quite good. But it's not working in a chance creation sense. Erik ten Hag was wrong about Ronaldo, and we fans back to that now, says Tony. What do you do if you're Erik ten Hag in this transfer window, says Abrajaj? You do exactly what you're told to. You do exactly what you're told to do, mate. Daniel Grant says, Gary Neville blaming Erik ten Hag for the amount of pounds on transfers without context is laughable. We waited till the last minute in transfers. You have to pay a premium for that, and our recruitment is shit. Thank you very much, Daniel Grant. Well, look, I did want to bring this in. I know we've been a bit heavy on this whole crisis talks, showdown talks, which are going to develop. I'm sure we're going to be talking about it a hell of a lot over the next few days as more and more comes out, because there will be leaks. There always is. But I was quite intrigued by what Gary Neville had to say about the Victor Lindelof extension. So Fabrizio has confirmed that Man United have sent a letter to Victor Lindelof's camp to confirm they've activated the option to extend the contract by another year. And the same is expected to happen with Wan-Bissaka and Hannibal Mabry, because their contracts are up in the summer, so they've extended it. But this is what Gary Neville had to say on New Year's Eve yesterday. He said, look, if United are looking to renew the contracts of Victor Lindelof and Rafael Varane on reduced terms, I'm worried. We've got to start afresh as much as possible. Whilst these two aren't bad players by any stretch, a message must be sent to everyone inside and outside the club that it's not going to tolerate the levels over the last few years. So I completely agreed with him on this, because it's open heart surgery. United haven't had a clean sheet since last year, says Espen. Well, it is only January the 1st. But a little knowledge is dangerous. Bad pressing is the same, says JJJ. I sort of agree with Gary Neville on this, that if you're going to make changes, don't hand out contracts to everybody. We want open heart surgery. But on the other hand, I do find it a little bit hypocritical, because targeting Lindelof and Varane as an example of players that we need to get rid of is wrong. I don't think Lindelof and Varane are two players where if we get rid of them, they'd be high on the list of people saying, yeah, they're in my top 10 players to get rid of. I guarantee if I said, right, write the 10 players down that you want to get rid of, I don't think Varane would be in there, and Lindelof would be somewhere between 5 and 10. So I think when Gary Neville says, renewing the contracts of Lindelof and Varane, I'm worried about doing it. We've got to start afresh as much as possible. And these two players, whilst they're not that bad, you need to send a message. I don't think Varane and Lindelof are going to send a message to the rest of the squad. So I agree with Gary to a certain extent, but I think he's picking on the wrong player. Not picking on. I think he's highlighting the wrong players. The reason we're extending Lindelof's contract is to try and get a fee for him in the summer. That's why we're doing it. We did it with Fred. The reason we're extending Varane's contract, if we do it, is because we want to keep him, but we don't want to pay the wages. I've got no problem with keeping Lindelof and Varane. I think they're actually very, very good players for us in relation to what's available at the moment at centre-back. And if they both go, where's the 100 million coming from to replace them with two really good centre-backs? So I agree with him in the sense that we've got to get rid of some players, but, as somebody alluded to, why are you not saying this about British players? Why are you not saying it about Maguire or Luke Shaw or Marcus Rashford? Why is it always Martial and Lindelof and Varane? And actually, I don't think Varane and Lindelof represent a hard message of we're here to do business, open heart surgery. If that's the plan in the summer, Lindelof, Varane and Martial go, I'll be like, that's not open heart surgery. Martial barely plays and Lindelof and Varane weren't really the problem. I mean, open heart surgery is what we were talking about this morning. That, the sort of exits that take your breath away. I'm not talking about a big shit. I'm talking about, like, if we are really going to send a message, which is what Gary clearly wants, then I think we all know the sort of players that he's got that need to be kicked out of the club. And I don't really feel that Varane and Lindelof represent that. I think that's a plaster over an open wound. In the summer, if they go, look at how ruthless we've been getting rid of Varane and Lindelof, I'd be like, I don't see that as ruthless. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just not problematic players. They're not the players that are going to make a massive amount of difference. Buyers an inspiring and stoic and inspiring captain, says Joe Hart. Well, you've got to. This is where recruitment comes in, because you've got to go and try and find these players. Abaraj says, I think Bruno's whining creates negativity. I don't. Again, I find the Bruno criticism a little. I find the Bruno captaincy criticism the sort of stuff you'd find on a Talk Sport show. Really, with all due respect, I think it's let's individualise Man United's problems when there are many Manchester United problems. Changing the captaincy of Man United is not going to make us climb the league. It's not. Dropping Marcus Rashford is not going to make us climb the league. Selling Scott McTominay is not going to make us climb the league. They all might be problems, but they're not going to make us climb the league. And I think the sooner we realise this, the better. In fact, I could say, look, if I sell Scott McTominay and I take the captaincy off Bruno Fernandes and I, bench Marcus Rashford or Anthony or whoever you want me to bench, we're not going to improve overnight. We won't get loads better. We might improve a little bit, but not massively. And we need to, pardon the pun to Sir David Brailsford, but we don't need marginal improvements. We need massive improvements. And what Manchester United need is, and I was thinking about this morning, I'd love to take some of your comments on this. What would your, and you might have 2 things, you might have 10 things, you might have 5 things, but realistically, if I wanted to improve And you should always look to improve today, not tomorrow, because the plans you put in place today might not come to fruition until tomorrow. So what would I do today to that Manchester United side to start to put the handbrake on, stop the free fall, and then start climbing the mountain again? I do sympathise with Ten Hag because you do need consistency. I look at the game against Villa and Højlund doesn't play against Forest, and that's, we massively missed that. Not only that, you look at the front three against Villa, Rashford on the left, Højlund, Garnacho on the right. It may as well have been a different front three because against Forest, Garnacho's on the left, Anthony's on the right, and Rashford's up front. Nobody was in the same position as they were against Villa. Højlund wasn't there, Rashford was out of position, and Garnacho was back on the left. So you need consistency to build performance. And there has been bad luck around injury and illness. But look, what I would look to do is straight away, 2 midfielders, Bruno as the 10. And ideally, those 2 midfielders are going to be Casemiro and Mainu, or Amrabat if he's back. I'm not really up for the Eriksen or McTominay as this sort of attacking midfielder bullshit. We need to get some steel into the team. We're conceding too many goals and we're not creating any chances. So I would give up this whole attacking midfield press bullshit that's not working, and I would go back to what we did against Liverpool, which is 2 holding midfielders or 2 midfielders together, and Bruno as the 10, because that's the most logical thing to do. I would desperately do whatever I needed to do to get that defensive line higher as well. Onana can sweeper keep, and we don't need to be defending the edge of our box. One of the big problems United have had this season is everybody goes forward and we're playing a deeper line, and the void between defence and midfield is huge, and attack. And we saw it with the second Forest goal. Teams break on us and they've got so many options with the cutback. It's not lost on me that we concede a lot of goals from cutbacks because the gap between the defence and the attack is huge, and we don't get back in time. We don't concede many goals from crosses in front of our defenders. In that gap between the goalkeeper and the centre-backs. Those Beckham-like crosses that are just impossible to defend. They're sort of between the goalkeeper and the back four. We concede from cutback crosses. And the reason we concede from cutback crosses is because our defence is in place, but the attack is up the pitch. And there's always spare men for the cutback. We concede so many goals like this. We need to condense the football field. We need to get our defensive line higher and our attack and defence gap closer together, which will happen with that. And we also need to put 2 midfielders there to be dealing with these cutbacks. So, I mean, for me, these 2 tactical changes would happen straight away. And I probably would be pushing for Todibo in the January transfer window. My number 1 priority would be a centre-back that can run. Because with Johnny Evans and Varane, you can't play a high line because Johnny Evans is too slow. With Maguire and Evans, you can't do it. They're too slow. With Maguire and Lindelof, you can't do it because Maguire's not quick enough and Lindelof's not particularly quick. So I need to get my defensive line up because Onana's under so much pressure at the moment, justifiable pressure. But if I can get my defensive line up, then it will utilise and expose his ability to sweeper keep, which he's not able to do at the moment, which will enhance his value. So they're things I would immediately be doing, moving away from this survival football shit. The pattern I've seen for United is United avoid the huge, obvious problems and try to solve the minor issues. The big ones end up ruining everything, says Dowell. And that's something that we want to see changing, isn't it? Do you think we will sign Amrabat on a permanent deal, says Delv? No, I think this is a great question. Welcome to the Members Club, Ashley, as well. Thank you very much for joining the Members Club. You get your badge in. Links, it'll be in the live chat. Welcome and thanks for your support. I absolutely think that Amrabat's gone in the summer. Yeah, I think he stays for the season and then he's gone. I've said this to you before. He reminds me of Sabitzer, not as a player. He's not the same as Sabitzer as a player. But Sabitzer came in last January and I was like, really good player. If he hits the ground running, we get him on a cheap deal and he'll be here next season. And he had a few injuries and then you couldn't really see where he fitted into the team and he went. And I think the same thing's happened to Amrabat. Looked like a really good player. Obviously, you never know what's going to happen from a different league. He's come into the league. He's had a few injuries. And, you now look at Amrabat and you go, he's not going to start ahead of Mainu's better than him. Mainoo's better than him. Casemiro's better than him. You know, it's just not going to work out. And you should never buy squad players, and that's all he would be. So unless there's a huge upturn in Amrabat, which could happen. I mean, he's had a very stunted first few months, but I don't see it happening. The midfield at Anfield was Amrabat, Mainoo, and Scott, says Joe. Yeah, but McTominay played as a 10. Bruno was suspended. I don't want to see that midfield. I want to see the structure of that midfield where you've got a 2 and a 1. Two deeper midfielders and an advanced midfielder. We didn't play Bruno because McTominay, and McTominay played shit in that game, let's be honest, but Bruno was suspended. I don't want McTominay to play in the midfield. I don't want him to play for Manchester United. I don't think he's good enough, but I don't want to see 2 attacking midfielders and 1 holding midfielder. I want to see 2 deeper midfielders and an attacking midfielder. Thank you, Joe. Change the goalkeeper and play 2 holding midfielders and don't play McTominay, says Stephen King. Thank you very much for that. Just on the poll, by the way, we've had 8,000 votes on this. Will Ten Hag be Manchester United manager next season? 44% of you say yes, and 56% of you say no. That's clippable, because that is a poll from a community, which is a very, I believe, passionate and thoughtful community who will think about these sort of things pragmatically. And I think you're right. I mean, we're not quite at 50-50, but I think you're right. I think it's a 50-50 thing. I really do. I think it's and it goes back to what we've just been speaking about for half an hour. You know, if you are Ten Hag out or you are Ten Hag in, or you're pissed off with United and you're despairing about what's going to happen, one positive I can give you, I can only give you hope. I can't give you guarantees, but one positive I can give you is these crisis and Ten Hag showdown talks are happening now. Not literally now, but, you know, in the next few days, they're happening. And the outcomes of those meetings are going to dictate whether Ten Hag's the manager next season. Because if he doesn't come across well in those interviews or conversations, then it's going to get fed back to Sir Jim that this isn't the guy. And they'll start putting plans in place to replace him. If he comes out of it really well, then he will be the guy. And at the moment, I would say, can anybody honestly sit here and say that Ten Hag is going to go into those meetings with INEOS and definitely woo them and keep his job? Or can you say he's going to go into those meetings and they're going to go, this ain't the guy? I don't know. I really don't know. If you'd have said this in the summer, I'd have said they're going to keep him and they're going to build with him. But because of what's happened in recent weeks and months, I don't know. I think he goes into that meeting and it is crisis time. And he will be asked about flops. He'll be asked about performance, and he'll be asked about where the club is, and he'll be asked about where the club's going. And if he doesn't answer those questions well, I think he'll find himself out of a job in the summer. If he does answer those questions well, then he will be here next summer because they'll be planning what they're going to do in the summer. What does Mount do that Sabitzer can't? I mean, Daniel, I forget that we've got Mason Mount. I forget that Mason Mount's a Manchester United player. That's how bad it is. I do not know. Hopefully he's going to be like a new signing in January. He's basically you know what? Have you ever thought about it? Mason Mount's basically a January transfer signing, isn't he? I mean, because he's done next to nothing as a summer signing. So for me, Mason Mount is psychologically in my head, he's a January signing now. We signed him in January. Let's see what he can do. Because I mean, Christ, it's been a terrible start. I can't think of there's a quick quiz question for you. I can't think of a Man United signing that started as badly in relation to basically the first 6 months are a write-off. I mean, complete and utter right. We may as well have bought him injured and he wasn't going to be fit till January. I mean, I know it happened with Timber at Arsenal. He got injured straight away, and I know it happened with a Villa centre-back, that Carlos guy. But, I mean, it's basically just not been there. I'd keep the players that I can see a future with and transfer list the rest of them. That's exactly what I would do, Slippy G. Exactly. You know, sometimes, look, I think football's really, really simple. If I'm Sir Jim Radcliffe with Sir David Brailsford and Blanc and everybody else, all I'm going to do is sit down with a big list and go, are these players good enough and part of our future? And if they're not, get rid of them. And if they're a question mark, get rid of them. Only the ones with a concrete yes do we build with. If buts and maybes, get rid. Might take us 2 years, but get rid. And you'd be surprised who would be on the if, but, or maybe list. Watch the video if you're a member part 2 of the Christmas show where I was on stage with Ben Foster. I went through 20 players at United and I said basically this. If you're Sir Jim Radcliffe and you want to win the title in the next 3 years, do you keep this player or do you get rid? And it was very interesting what he said about the likes of Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford. Really, really interesting. James says, read the Varane stories. We need to get rid of the dead wood, not the polished mahogany. James, I like it. I like that a lot. We need open heart surgery, says Ali, one of our members. Thank you very much. What are your thoughts on Hansi Flick to United, says Neil? I mean, look, Hansi Flick's an interesting guy. I don't want to sack Ten Hag at the moment. If I'm replacing Ten Hag, my mentality is it's in the summer. If you're going to give me Hansi Flick as Man United manager in the summer, one, I've got to do quite a lot of research on him to see what he's like. I don't know the ins and outs of Hansi Flick, but I'm talking about if I'm the CEO. But if he is coming into the job, he can't come into the job like Jose, Ten Hag, Ollie, Moyes, Van Gaal. If we're getting a new manager, then they're not coming in till the summer. No way. If I'm Sir Jim and David Brailsford says we need a new manager, I'm saying it's not happening until the summer because I am not bringing another manager into the same problems everyone else has had. When this new manager lands, we're going to have CEO in place, director of football in place, and we're going to have transfer listed all the shit so that when he comes in, we've done a lot of work for him. Because I want this manager to focus on making Manchester United great on the pitch. I don't want him having to deal with CEO problems, director of football problems, injury problems, problems in the dressing room. We're going to take control of all this. And that is why, for me, whether it's Hansi Flick, Erik Ten Hag, or whoever else you want, they can't come until the summer until these things have been put in place. Fantastic show, as per usual. It's a shame it was a 7 o'clock show because I think it would have been nice to carry on. Zidane won't take the job, Darren. I don't know why anybody ever mentions Zidane. It's almost naivety that they've never done any research. Zidane doesn't speak English and he doesn't want the Man United job. It's been known for about 18 months, 2 years, in fact. Happy New Year, Mark and United Stand. Cheers to another year of this rollercoaster ride. Well, let's hope we get some improvement, Sean. You know, despite what people say, I am somebody that wants to jump on positivity if we can find it, but we must scrutinise it. But you know what? I know it's January the 1st, but that's got to be show of the year. Absolutely brilliant. I love talking in depth about what's going on at United and the things that are going to happen because people just go, oh, there's going to be a meeting between Ten Hag and Sir David Brailsford. There's going to be a major meeting between them and it's going to dictate what happens to Ten Hag and it's going to happen in the next few days. Would you take any other manager after Sir Alex back instead of Erik Ten Hag? Would you take any other manager after Sir Alex back instead of Ten Hag, says Fuge? Look, I regret Mourinho getting the sack, but I don't know that his style of football's pleasing. That, you know, it never was. I wouldn't take Ollie back. I wouldn't take Moyes back. I wouldn't take Van Gaal back. In a way, I'd take Ranić, I think, for style of football, but, you know, it was such a failure the first time. Anyway, look, I've got to get over to I'm watching Liverpool against Newcastle. We can continue the conversation there. I'm going to be live in a couple of minutes. I don't see any better coach than Ten Hag, considering the coaches out there, says St. Pierre. You've been legends tonight. Thank you very much. I'm back on the United Stand tomorrow morning at 10, but I'm going to be on That's Football in a couple of minutes for Liverpool against Newcastle. I will see you over there. Thank you very much for watching. Speak to you in a bit.